All right, let's get started, everybody. Good morning. Good morning. I'm joined by the amazing Shriman Gamdar. He's the director of product at W Energy Software, and Mujahid Mohammed, senior tech lead at W Energy. They're both veterans at the company and have been around through many iterations of their product, and they're here to walk us through the tech, the implementation, and how they got to where they are today. Take it away.
All right. Thanks, everybody. I'll just get us started. So the product that uses a HyperTrack in the field is called Join from our company. It primarily focuses on field users in the energy industry. The module we'll be looking over today is FSM and showing a little bit about what it's about and how we utilize HyperTrack within the use cases. So I'll give a quick overview of the problem we're trying to solve. We as a company, we do accounting, production, and transportation. We'll be focusing on production today. And our ethos is three-pronged in terms of pragmatic innovation, just practically innovating and having R&D with the purpose, not science experiments for the sake of science experiments. That leads to us delivering speed, and the best type of speed is the type where the customer doesn't have to wait for an enhancement or doesn't have to wait for help setting things up. So that then leads to self-service. What we're trying to do on the pragmatic innovation side is do small bets with big wins. Our main focus is minimizing cognitive burnout for our users. A lot of times they're having to context switch between multiple pieces of software, and what we focus on is getting that last mile delivery efficient from many different systems onto a single app and a single screen, so folks can do the work they need to do without having that cognitive burnout. We do have 62% of our staff in R&D versus an average of 35% in most other companies. We use that to lower the risk of everything we're trying to do for our customers, since the energy and business does have a lot of inherent risk involved. We talked about the single pane of glass. Because we're lowering the risk up front, a lot of our prototypes and pilots have a high success rate, 85% plus, and everything's pretty much on the cloud. On the self-service side, we want our customers to set up, but not build, hire consultants, and do other expensive stuff. We just want to set up and go. So we're focused on delivering that underlying how, and so that the customer can deliver the what for the who, when, and the where. So again, we're just trying to reduce the number of workflows and configs that require a lot of support. And finally, when it's time to go, we want the customer to not have to do the no-go decisions and just go fast. So this means we implement fast, set up use cases fast, provide fast time to value. And then again, going back to lowering the risks up front, this is all while maintaining safety and compliance. So when it comes to production, we're able to turn up field production capacity. What that means is we're able to add 15% full-time equivalent headcount without actually adding extra headcount. We reduce a lot of the workflows in the field from 10 days to 2 days, or even less in some cases, same day reg reports, an increase into the visibility in the field, which is more of what we'll talk about today, and the application of HyperTrack within the context of that. We're able to integrate systems fast, since we do understand the customer's systems and their business. So we're able to integrate systems that usually take other companies 6 months down to 30 days. And then, going back to that visibility, due to the multiple systems in most companies, there's a lot of tasks that happen off the books in text messages, Microsoft Teams, so on and so forth. So we're trying to get that down to zero so that there's complete visibility across the board. These are just some of the people we win for, right? Whether it's visibility at the lowest levels of their organizations, the field techs, the vendors, the lease operators, all the way up through the engineers, dispatchers, in some cases, even the accountants, although we won't touch on them today, drilling and completions in the case of oil and gas, and all the way up to the executive suite. Going back to the cognitive burnout we spoke about, a common scenario in the field is you got 4 guys asking for 8 tasks from 1 guy in the field. These 8 tasks are coming through multiple systems: Outlook, text messages, actual software systems, Teams, through a couple different interfaces, laptops, mobile devices. And then they're turning around, they're taking sticky notes, writing stuff down in their notebook, going to their phone, going to their laptop, and filling out other types of systems, Excels, Teams, replying to emails, text messages, whatnot. So just to do these 8 tasks, if you do the math here on the permutations and combinations, this one person, before he ever picks up a wrench to go do the work he needs to do, he has to make 6,144 mental decisions just to do these 8 things. So again, that's before he ever picks up a wrench to actually do what he was hired to do. So what we're trying to do is get those same 8 requests into a single field app versus all the other stuff, regardless of what systems they come through. And then he turns around, does the work on the field app, and then lets the cloud integrate to whatever other systems need that. So this, if you do the math on this scenario, it reduces it down from 6,000 plus nodes to 32 mental nodes. So that's a 99% reduction in cognitive load. And that's where our focus is, trying to reduce that cognitive burnout in the field via this effective last mile delivery. This is kind of how we use HyperTrack at a super high level. We have the SDK on the mobile app, and we connect to the HyperTrack cloud from our cloud database. And then we have APIs from our database in the cloud to other systems for integrating back and forth. While live locations is great, and this is an example of what we've used in the past with HyperTrack service. You're able to see where people are, where they're going, how much time they've spent at different places. But for us, it's all about the contextual relevance. So being able to pull the HyperTrack live data into our dashboards and overlaying it with the tasks. So for example, what I'm showing here is a location, when it was last entered and last exited, what the task on that location was, and who it was assigned to. So this is what our customers really like to see is, they want to see their map, they want to see their tasks, and then they want to see their people moving around in the field. So it's kind of using the HyperTrack data and overlaying it with our internal data. Other things we've done with the data is, we've analyzed stop time and drive time for our customers. So this is like some of the dashboards that they create. So how long are they at a stop versus how long did they spend driving around, just to see the balance of the two and whether they can have more effective routes. What locations are they spending most of their time at, and how long were they there at those locations, and how many tasks were done at those locations. So these are some of the other things that we've seen some of our customers do. And then they do these load analytics, like what point of the day are they doing the tasks at, and what type of tasks are they doing. So, this kind of gives them an idea, since it's a 24-hour operation, what's happening during day shift, what's happening during night shift, and, what are the counts, and are there things we can move around. So I'm just going to do a quick demo of what the application looks like. And then I think, Moise, you have a separate section after that for just like some fireside chat type stuff, correct?
Exactly.
Okay. So let me get out of the PowerPoint here. Okay. So just to, does everybody see the web browser on the right and the mobile app, web browser on the left and mobile app on the right?
Mobile app is not visible.
Oh, it's not? Okay. Let me share again. All right. Let me know if it is now once it loads.
Yeah,
It's all visible now.
Okay. All right. So we have the mobile app on the right. That's my iPhone. And we have the web browser on the left. And that's what the dispatcher or the foreman or somebody else would see. So what you're looking at is all the people you can dispatch to. You're looking at what the tasks are and who they're assigned to. So this last task here, that's an AVO inspection, which is basically an inspection in the field where you're testing for hydrocarbons and seeing if you can hear them, smell them, or see them. I've clicked on that task and I will go ahead and assign it to myself. And once I've assigned it to myself, it appears here on the mobile app. So that's the AVO inspection. What I can do is I go in and I can accept the task. Once I accept the task, we'll see this little clock icon next to my name turn green. So there it goes, it's green and it shows I've accepted the task. And now what I'll do is I'll fill out this form saying the seals are okay, there's no corrosion on the roof, the vents are in good condition, I don't hear any leaks, I don't see any leaks, I don't smell any leaks, everything's free of debris. And I think the rest of it I haven't made mandatory, so I will go ahead and skip that. I will put in my signature. And then what I'll do is I'll add some comments. Completed the task. Take a picture of these little sticky notes here. Send that in, and then I will say the task is resolved. And once that's resolved, we'll see the updates here, and then we'll go look into the actual task. So there you go, it's resolved. Now, if I go in and look at the details, so we can see the comment updates where I said I completed the task. We can download the image that I took. And I think there may be some delay. Okay. Let me know if the screen is keeping up. I just showed the picture of the sticky notes that I took on the mobile.
Yep, it's all good.
All right. And then you can see what I filled out on the form. So this is the form with my signature. If you want to save it as a PDF, you can always print it and it'll print out as a formatted piece of content as a PDF that you can email out if you need to. Sometimes that takes a while to preview. All right, there it goes. So it'll just format it like a form with the signature, and you can save that as a PDF, print it out, whatever you might need to do. And then all the way at the bottom, there's a big audit trail along with, and here's where some of the mapping information we've also contextualized within the audit trail of the task. So you can see where I was when I resolved the task. And I think this specific task, let me see if I can. So sometimes it'll show 2 flags. I think this specific location didn't have a lat long in it, but it'll show 2 locations where the task was and where I was when I actually resolved it. So that's also something we use the geoanalytics for. Other things we do is, like we showed on the map view, which since this is a demo site, I don't have anybody live running around in the field. But if we did, basically we would have this map view right here. We'd be able to see basically what's going on and, where folks are in the context of the tasks. So obviously this demo site, so nobody's running around, but that's the reason I showed the image earlier of, how that would look. So that's it for the demo. Just wanted to give a quick overview of, what we're trying to do for the customers. But Muiz, I think I'll hand it over to you for, the other topics that you had.
Amazing. Yeah. So let's jump into, just like a fireside conversation about the technology that you guys are all using, how it works, how you make decisions, technical decisions, the architecture and core behind that. Before jumping that, let's talk about you guys as yourselves for a bit. I mean, I'd love if you guys could both give us all some background on where you started your careers, your backgrounds in technology, how you got into the software industry, how you got into the logistics industry specifically. Yeah, I'll start with you, Shriman. How about you? Where did you start?
Yeah. So I'm a chemical engineer. I worked in oil and gas and downstream refining for about 8.5 years. After that, I joined Seven Lakes, which was a tech company that was operating in the upstream oil and gas industry, which is more, drilling and producing oil out of the ground versus refining it. And we were working on technology for upstream oil and gas companies at the time. So that's kind of how I got in terms of just having the general knowledge of the background and understanding of the business. So then started working with developers like Muju in terms of building software for what the market needed.
Very cool. So a very long storied oil and gas career.
Yeah.
Mujahid, how about you? What was your career like? How'd you get started? How'd you get into tech?
Yeah, so basically I'm from a tech background. So joined like Seven Lakes like 7 years back. From there worked on different products. One is analytics and then joined this field service management. So that's how I got into this logistic technology. I mean, not much background, but tech-wise, that's how I got into this product.
Amazing. So you guys both mentioned, you guys have both been with Seven Lakes turning into W Energy for a very long time now. How did you guys really, having been through that whole process, how did has that conversation of building your own tech in-house versus buying third-party tech, whether that be packaged solutions or libraries and, existing models, has that conversation come up? And if it's come up, where do you guys really stand on that, both individually and as a company?
Yeah, it comes up all the time. We do have quite a bit of engineering prowess in the company, so the tendency is to build it yourself. But we do, from a product speed, performance, what our core competency is and what the value is that we're trying to deliver. From a product-led growth standpoint, does it make sense we do that? Or is it something that's been commoditized by a specialty producer that we can leverage for what we need? Right. So, there are a handful of things in Join where we've leveraged other companies, HyperTrack being one of them. But yeah, I'll pause there and let Muju add his bit.
Yeah, so this question always comes because a lot of different tech companies building out-of-the-box solutions. Whenever we want to use that kind of module like HyperTrack or grids versus or brand schedulers, so the tendency is always to evaluate first basically, and then make a decision what is best suited for that. So in the beginning, we always had this tendency of building something of our own. For example, grids-wise, we started making our own framework, but it didn't end up well because it has a lot of performance issues and all that stuff. So one example is grids, but there are many more examples which made us believe that it's better to use the product which another tech company is working solely on that. So that's how we started with HyperTrack basically.
Okay, so what I'm hearing from both of you really is you guys are focusing on what you do best and letting other companies deal with what they do best, and really just finding that perfect balance of building what you're good at and then buying what other people are good at.
Yeah. And a lot of time it's about focus, right? Like, I always feel with the engineers we have, we could build anything, but doesn't mean we should build anything. It's if like, for example, what you guys do, there's companies that have tried to do what HyperTrack delivers, but when we've, and I think we'll get into it, but we've tried some of those things out, and even with all the resources at their disposal, they were a few years behind, and still working through what you guys were struggling with 3-4 years ago. So, even if you have the best engineers in the world, if you're playing catch up, it's kind of pointless, especially if you're playing catch up on something that's not your core competence.
All right. So on that note, you guys have both been with W Energy, previously Seven Lakes, for a very long time. When you guys started initially working on your location tracking services, you just mentioned you guys did look at other providers. What was that process really like? I mean, who did you guys consider? What was that considerations like? What did it really come down to in the end?
Yeah, so I'll talk about the business side, and then Muju, you can talk about the tech side. So we started with you guys, and we had, I think, the first iteration of what you guys had come to market with, and yeah, it was to be transparent and blunt for the matter, it definitely demoed well. It worked well in a few use cases, but there were a lot of gaps back then. And through that journey, while it was already implemented and customers were able to use it, there were a lot of new asks and features, or once it got used, there were a lot of gaps in the data because of just connections gone missing, or offline scenarios, or whatever it is that were not coming through. And while that was going on, we did look in other places. Primarily Amazon had come out with their location service, so obviously you think, bigger company, it's going to be much better. So by this time we were probably in the second or third year of utilizing HyperTrack. And at that point, I think you guys were just turning the corner in terms of, the quality of the data, figuring out how to get around the gaps. And we were kind of seeing that improvement, but we tried out Amazon anyway, thinking, okay, it's probably been tested and developed by 1,000 engineers. And, the typical perception you have when something has the name Microsoft or Amazon on it. And then once we actually did like a small pilot of it, we found out they were having the exact same problems that you guys had in year one. And in some cases more, and in some cases less, but overall they were a few years behind you guys. So, and then we started noticing every week your stuff was getting better, whereas with the AWS location services pilot, it felt like we were living the same journey we did with you guys 3 years ago. So we shelved that, and even from a cost perspective, it was not much of a difference, because initially it feels like AWS is always going to be cheaper. Once you get into the details, it wasn't that much of a difference. So then it was just a matter of, okay, what's getting better faster and what's working more. And, then we stuck it out with you guys, and, I think it's you guys have come a long way. But Muju, I'll let you, talk maybe more on the technical side.
Yeah. So at the beginning, like 3-4 years back when we started with HyperTrack, so the concept of geofences didn't exist basically. So we had to create the routes initially, so that I think it worked for well for us at that time. But as the time progressed, the customers were asking that why we need to define the route initially. So that was a pain point, and which and there are a lot of gaps in your product at that time. So while you guys were working on your new stack, we saw that there is data discrepancy. Some data was not coming through to us, and some of the geofences were getting missed basically. And then we had to look at this AWS, and AWS has issues like since they're new, their SDK is not that great. So we had to write our custom code of handling offline scenarios. foreground, background scenarios, and it was becoming difficult to manage. Basically, some of the locations were missing, and AWS. So it was good with AWS because everything is integrated because we're also on AWS, but since the reliability was missing, so that was one point when we integrated AWS. Second is when we evaluated the cost. So it's pay per use. Still, for the use cases we have, it was going beyond what but we are charging for customer. So then we're back to this HyperTrack. I think your product, which is on new stack, I think you're also on AWS. I think we are seeing much improvement. The SDK is fine. It works very well. Offline, background, foreground, all the scenarios, it's working well. And the reliability is back a little bit. And since now you moved away from the concept of routes to geofences, it's very easy to integrate into our use case.
Amazing. So really from both of you is, you look at AWS, look at other platforms and realize that, while their location tracking might be they're years behind in terms of outage handling, exceptions, handling any sort of non-happy case scenario really is what the feedback I'm getting from you guys is.
Yeah.
Okay. Namuju, you mentioned that you had to write custom code for the background case. Was it just simple things like asking for permissions, or was there more complex outages that you guys were being faced with the Amazon solution?
Yeah, so at that time, I'm not sure what is the current state of SDK, but at the time when we were piloting, there was no offline support in that SDK to send location updates to their resources, AWS location resources, and even foreground, background was it was not working well, so we had to write custom code there, and so we had to create more APIs to talk to AWS location services. So that was one more deviation from our main product. And it was not reliable. Whatever the code we wrote, it was not coming well because there are a lot of minor cases like network bandwidth is slow, network is slow. So all those things we need to consider. I think which we couldn't focus. So that's the uncertainty it was happening at the time.
Okay, so the technical demand of even implementing Amazon became greater than developing your own product, is what I'm sort of hearing.
Yeah. To have better reliability, we were losing focus. We had to spend so much time on sending these locations to AWS, basically.
Okay. Now, having gone through all of those changes, been there for so many years, the product has grown immensely in all these years. How do you guys really handle feature scope increases versus technical complexity and making sure that your architecture stays simple and easy to iterate on?
Yeah, so I mean, with this product that we just saw, the roadmap is pretty fast paced. There's constantly new things. Most of the work we work on are, maybe 10-15% fixes, 85% net new add. So I think it starts with clearly defined product requirements in terms of it's not just the acceptance criteria has to also involve what are the performance criteria for this feature. Like if I click this button, then given I'm a field user, when I click this button, then this should happen. Okay, well, Muju can give it back to me a week later and it happens, but maybe it took 5 minutes because I didn't say it has to happen in 3 seconds. So, a lot of those things need to be considered upfront. A lot of times I think features are easily designed without the performance criteria that are required for the features. And, you get something that works, but it doesn't work for the context in which it needs to be delivered. So, I think we've learned that on our journey to where our acceptance criteria, we have an agreement between engineering and product that unless the the user flow is clear and the user expectations are clear, it can't get developed. So it doesn't go beyond a specific status in Jira, so to speak. So once those are clear, then then it's on engineering to go figure out the right way to do it, whether it's third-party thing or self-developed or some library or whatever it might be. So Muju, if you want to add anything.
Yeah. So basically, yeah, the understanding is there. So whenever product, any feature request comes, we have a clear understanding what needs to be delivered, and once we have better understanding, then we go and chart it out. Okay, what can we do? Can we build in-house? Or there's something already existing, we can use it. And what is the timelines available to us? And then that will guide us. I mean, what to choose basically.
Yeah. One example, like getting this, getting the live locations within the context of the tasks that are there. So, initially we found, okay, well, do we want to minimize the data? Can we get the location every 10 minutes? Well, if someone's driving down the highway at 50 miles an hour and you're updating your locations every 10 minutes, well, he could be many miles away for you to look at the map and be like, hey, you're right next to it. Go turn around and do that. When you call him and he's like, well, no, I'm 5 miles away now. I'm done. I'm not going back. So, okay, well, we need the map to update every 2 minutes and, every 30 seconds or, every 20 seconds. So those are, those are some of the things that, within the context of HyperTrack that we were looking at, and as well as when we were considering Amazon.
Amazing. So, going on those
and one more thing, cost of using these external products also come into picture. One more criteria to evaluate. So what to choose.
Okay, makes sense. On the context of like the live locations, updating your data that frequently, when you guys are designing your data pipeline and really figuring out, what data do we store, what data do we showcase, what data do we highlight to our users, what considerations go into there? Because that's also another point that can cause a lot of technical blow and a lot of technical debt and with a lot of solutions.
Yeah. So again, we start with from a product standpoint, what does the customer want to see? Okay, they want to see the location. Okay, then we bring that data in. Okay, well, now they want to, use an API to pull what locations were visited within a 24-hour period. Okay, so then we know we need to store that, but do we need, everything from every second of every day? Probably not, right? So from a product standpoint, those are the questions we ask, and then that then helps engineering do what they need to do. But Muju, I think you were about to add something.
Yeah. So for this use case, I'm giving it as HyperTrack example, location service example, because it's what we're discussing. So currently, we don't store much on our side. We just store geobands events, because that's the only thing our use case needs currently. So everything is stored on your side only. Whenever we want, we fetch it by using API. But in future, right, we have these. We are planning new features like if the customer wants a dashboard out of their data, users data, so then we might start storing that information in our databases. But currently, no one is asking that, so we're not storing it currently. So that is one use case, and that's what I remember.
Okay, and then this is more of a product question, but when it comes to highlighting data, I mean, I'm sure on a regular day, this task screen would be, so full that it would cause visual, cognitive load. How do you guys highlight and showcase like the priorities you guys have, for example? Where does it really come into play? Do you guys focus on, things like just the schedule times, or do you guys have a more dynamic prioritization and urgency that comes up for ops teams?
Yeah, so we have 4 levels of priorities: low, medium, high, and then critical. Low, medium, high is just mostly all routine stuff that can be classified. So you're probably not going to go out of your way to do a high. You're just gonna, you know, if you're getting towards the end of the day and you got more highs left than lows and mediums, you might skip a few lows and mediums, let them roll over to the next day and increment in priority. So we have a priority incrementer. As tasks get older, they move towards their max priority. So there's a concept of a max priority where a certain task type the highest it'll ever be is a medium, because it's never more riskier than that. There's also a critical level of priority, which means drop everything and go do it now. So those are usually highlighted like across the grid in purple. Also on the mobile app, no matter what location they're at, the critical tasks always float to the top. And then as far as, resourcing and having a kind of a AI engine, we do have an engine that looks at things like what's the skill set of the employee who has the labor availability, what is the labor availability, where are they in the field, are we prioritizing for priority, or are we prioritizing to minimize distance in their drive? Do we want to cluster higher priority things together as much as possible? Do we want to freeze the next 2 hours of what they're doing in their day so that you're not jerking them around throughout the day and changing their assignments? So these are all the things that go into this little task engine that we have, and people can run that multiple times a day, so that any new tasks that are coming in are constantly assigned to the right people. So those are some of the different ways in how priorities are handled.
Amazing. So that's all the technical questions I really have for you guys right now. What's next for Join? What's the future look like?
Yeah, I think within the context of location services, which is a big piece moving forward, I think, one thing we're trying to add is right here where you see all the people. If someone is still in the field or, hasn't moved in 15 minutes, 30 minutes, whatever, the customers decide that number to be, then we're thinking of having some type of a visual cue that's like a safety indicator that, hey, you might want to check on this person. Their geo position hasn't moved in so much time. Other things we're looking at is for each task, we know how long they spent in the field using the geofence data. So we're going to try to map those time in the field to the task type, and then do some machine learning in terms of recommending how long the task should take. And then even doing some analysis in terms of comparing where, hey, when it's vendor A, it takes 30 minutes, and when it's vendor B, it takes 90 minutes. So is this real? Are they doing some steps that vendor A is not, or is vendor B over, just hanging out there to get more money? Those are the types of things that we're looking at doing in the future to further help our customers.
Amazing. And now if there's any questions, feel free to drop in the Q&A, everybody in the chat right now. And otherwise, if there's no questions, Shrivan, Mujahid, it was great having you guys. It was great learning about Join and the technology that powers it, along with the architecture decisions that you guys made to keep it as efficient as possible.
All right, sounds good.
All right, we got a question in the chat right now. So how does the move to on-demand and gig work impact your business?
So we're not sure how it impacts us directly. I mean, I got a feeling our customers might be hiring more, on the job contractors, especially some of the smaller customers, who, may not be having, what do you call those, like approved contractor list type of business processes where, you can only use an approved contractor based on your supply chain groups agreements and negotiations. Some of the smaller companies don't have that. So what they're doing is they're giving our app to the vendors, giving them a login, and then the vendors are able to log in directly to our app, whether it's on the web or on the mobile app, and do the work that the company needs them to do. I think what helps is when a vendor logs in, we have security available to where they can only see tasks applicable to their vendor company and no other vendor. So even when you're working with potential gig worker, maybe, you could be paying them one rate and another gig worker who's doing this similar thing, another rate, without any of them knowing.
Amazing. I'm not seeing any other questions coming in. So on that note, it was great chatting with you guys. Great getting to learn from both of you. Just another question actually right now. Oh, no, okay, perfect. Yeah, so it was great getting to talk to you guys. Great getting to learn from you guys. Hope everyone has a great day.
All right. Thank you.